Доброго дня, колеги. Вітаю вас сьогодні у кризовому медіа-центрі. Сьогодні ми з вами піднімаємо таку тему на нашій прес-конференції. Це як перспективи інтеграції ВПО у об'єднані територіальні громади. Сьогодні разом з нами будуть спікерами. Це представник Міністерства Мінтот, це Ірина Калапуха. Також радники по програмі радники з питань ВПО – це Ольга Аверина та Анастасія Одинtsova. І зараз слово надається представнику міністерства. Дякую.
Доброго дня. Дякую вам за таку можливість.
Good afternoon. Thank you for this opportunity to tell you about our further priority steps. And today I would like to tell you about this strategy prepared by the ministry. It's a prospects of integration of IDPs into united communities. Currently, according to the social policy of Ukraine, we have more than 1.5 million IDPs in Ukraine, and the representatives of the public authorities, as well as our international partners, have agreed that under such situation of the continuous internal movement, we need new steps, new measures in solving the issues related to IDPs, and it would be the strategy developed by the ministry. The strategy was presented at the forum on the 20th of October with the representatives of 13 regions of Ukraine, the representatives of the regional, national and government authorities, also authorities related to IDPs, the NGOs, research institutions and others. All the proposals and comments were gathered by us, and we tried to implement them into this text of the strategy. Currently, the strategy has been approved. It hasn't been published yet, but it will be in the nearest future. It is very important because the social program with regard to the IDPs will be finished by the end of this year. That's why it should be replaced with a unified and sustainable document, which is supposed the strategy to be. And also it was the recommendation of the European Union for Ukraine. The target, the purpose of the project of the policy is to provide IDPs the right to housing, pension and social support, competence in the labor market, for rights for education and healthcare, and also for voting, and also the adaptation by the receiving communities. We try to formulate the policy in such a way that not only to reflect the needs of the IDPs, but also the fair requirements of the receiving communities. That's why we hope that the measures that will be developed in order to implement the strategy, we will put in practice, identify the measures and also the responsible authorities and the deadlines in order to achieve the targets, the objectives of the strategy. Thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I thank you very much to the representatives of the Ministry on temporary occupied territories for the developed strategies on IDP, and most of all that they consulted with the representatives of IDP. We had the reintegration program so far, but it was ineffective. Currently, we we have developed the action plan to implement the strategy, and currently today we had the working group meeting under the Ministry of Temporarily Occupied Territories, and this action plan will be the basis for the further actions. The analysis that is to be presented today is very important to take into consideration all the issues that will be faced during the implementation of the action plan, because it will relate to the united territorial communities where IDPs will be integrated. Of course, the most complicated, urgent issues is housing. Just recently, the 50-50 program was launched, and the IDPs applied for the program, but it won't cover the whole, all the IDPs. That's also one of the key issues is the pension support, because many IDPs have already integrated into the communities, but they cannot get their pensions on general basis. It's one of the hot issues, and we have a lot of suits related to these issues, and we will work on these problems. So we are grateful to the Ministry of the Temporarily Occupied Territories for involvement public in developing the strategy and take consideration all our comments. And now the floor is given to Olha Averina, advisor on IDPs issue in Kharkiv Oblast. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Good afternoon, dear journalists. I am happy to see you all here. So, while presenting our analysis, I would admit that its objective was to identify the most problematic aspects of IDPs in receiving communities, and also we try to simulate how they will feel themselves in the united communities. So the decentralization is the new step in our country, and in 2015, when the decentralization started, we already had this started. We already currently we have 665 united communities, and by the regions. The regions that suffered from the conflict, or those who received most of IDPs, like Kharkiv, Lugansk, and Donetsk, they have the lowest share of united communities. Окей. Так. 4В, так? Ага, я зрозуміла. Добре. Через 10 хвилин. А через 15 можна? Чи на скільки можна, так? Добре. Also in the area of medicine, and also education, and also with regard to land issues. I will tell about about Kharkiv region. We have a meeting with the heads of the united communities, and also with the international institutions who are working in the region. All of them admit that we have the potential that is not implemented yet. Just if we refer to the law, that we understood that the legislation on the local self-government and on the united communities and the cooperation of such communities and on the relations should be amended. So currently, for us to understand, the united territorial communities are not included into the single register of the territorial communities, and only those who can change, who were able to buy housing and change their status, and they are not included into subvention for healthcare and education. If we could register the number of IDPs, we could increase subvention for educational institution, for the schools, and also for and one more important thing, we considered the national budget for 2018, and we are concerned with the attempt to transfer payment of subsidies on the territorial communities, and we are not sure that the united communities could cover such costs, and it could result into additional pressure among IDPs. In addition, we would like to admit that this analysis is the initial one, and we are going to work with all stakeholders, and we didn't consider the access of IDPs more in depth to the so-called community capital. It is the land, and also access to the social facilities, and also their attracting to entrepreneurial initiatives. So we have a lot to do, and we really appreciate the activities of the Ministry on Temporarily Occupied Territories. In particular, the ministry received the state subvention in amount of 17 million hryvnias for Lugansk and Donetsk regions for the projects for IDPs personally. So other regions didn't receive such subvention, so we can see prospects for our activities. So we invite everybody to join us, and we are open for cooperation. Thank you for your attention.
Speakers,
Dear journalists, we have questions to our speakers, and if you have any question, please raise your hand. Yulia Galagan, Ukrainian Red Cross. Tell me, please, this strategy, and maybe you have more information, how the issue with the compact settlements places will be solved, especially now before the winter time when people lack money. Thank you for your question. I would say that the main objective of the strategy is the integration of IDPs. That's why I think we should shift from compact settlement places and provide IDPs with at least temporary housing, as we have with the project 50-50, and also the subvention mentioned by my colleague for Donetsk and Lugansk regions, where housing will be distributed based on the scores among the IDPs. So if we take the experience of Georgia, so this solution with compact settlements is proved to be negative. IDPs should be integrated into the territorial communities so that they feel themselves the members of the united communities, not to be discriminated, so that they feel valuable and confident. Any other questions? Вечерний Kiev newspaper, Mikhail Kaminsky. Tell me, please, how IDPs are integrated in Kiev communities. Any figures and any facts with regard to solving their problems and how the city, the mayorate helps them. Currently, we don't have statistical data on IDP in Kiev regions, but I do know that in Kiev region, the comprehensive program of IDP integration was adopted, and we will provide the information on our website as soon as the program is adopted. Thank you for your question. Any questions? Any other questions? So, thank you very much. Just to remember that today we had here Irina Kalapuha, the ministry representative of the ministry, and also if you have any questions to the representatives of the organization, please welcome.